Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. My name is Chris Schad. All right, for the Viking Age, Puckett's Pond, and Zone coverage, my co-host is Adam Patrick, who is the managing editor for the Viking Age. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode and we can spread the word to the masses. Today, we're just going to get right into it because the Vikings lost a very important matchup to the Detroit Lions. 31-9 was the final score. That's not important because now we're just going to overreact to it. So, Adam, as usual, you can defer, you can receive. What would you like to do this morning?
I'll clear my throat first. I'll take it, but usually, I guess in the past, where we've talked about how if we lose, we start with a negative, and if the Vikings win, we start with a positive. But I'm going to start with a kind of optimistic swing here, and I'm going to say that the Vikings now have a better chance to win the Super Bowl after losing to the Lions on Sunday. And I'll explain. So before the season and during most of the season, we heard from all the national talking heads that the Vikings they're a good team, but they probably don't have what it takes to emerge as the NFC's representative in the season's Super Bowl. And that was fine because the Vikings just kept winning and they used their doubters as fuel and motivation. And this has happened multiple times in the past. Because the second more people started to jump on the Vikings bandwagon, the pressure got to them, and they suffered a loss to a Lions team that they were definitely capable of beating on Sunday. And now with Sunday's loss, the expectations are back to being lower for the Vikings heading into the playoffs, and I think it could actually be what helps them, at least get to the Super Bowl and possibly win it. They can now play with a free mind because if they lose, so what? No one expected them to be there anyways. There's now a lot more pressure, I believe, on the Lions, who are now expected to make it to the Super Bowl, and their fans will be devastated if they don't. And just throughout their history, the Vikings have seemed to be at their best when no one really expected anything from them. No one thought in 98 going into that season they were going to go 15-1, break the NFL scoring record. 2017, no one thought they would make the NFC Championship with Case Keenum as their starting quarterback. And now Minnesota's expectations are much lower after Sunday's loss, and it could be just what they need to make the Super Bowl for the first time since the 1976 season.
I had a different leadoff topic, but I'm just gonna go into mine if you don't mind. First of all, shout out to our comments. Skull Vikings, let's go. Vikings news today. Fans, that's a lot of words. But Skull, let's go Vikings. He or she says, we appreciate you watching, commenting, doing all those cool YouTube things. You mentioned this a little bit, and I think I'm going to go the same way because I was going to come on here too and start with a negative, and there's a lot of negatives to go through with this game, and we're going to go over them. Trust me. This is what my stupid brain thought, and you're going to have to bear with me because it's going to be a little bit of a wrestling history lesson. One of my, as you know, if you watch the show, Adam and I are huge wrestling fans. One of my favorite storylines ever, and it's a huge night for wrestling, yes, with Raw debuting on Netflix. One of my favorite storylines ever is Cody Rhodes and finishing the story. Now, Cody hates that. He said that in interviews because it basically became a meme, but it was basically a 3-year storyline with a climactic build. Long story short, his father was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, great wrestler, Hall of Famer, never won the title. Cody had a long winding road to becoming a star. He had to paint his face at one point. He had like the dashing gimmick when he broke his nose, left the company, grinded it out on the independent circuit, formed AEW, returned to WWE as the American Nightmare. You see the play on words. And the tagline was finish the story to do what his dad never accomplished. WrestleMania 39, spring of 2023, he fights Roman Reigns for the title. Everybody thinks he's going to win, and then he comes up short. And there's an iconic shot where Cody's staring off in the distance and Roman Reigns is in the background holding up both titles, celebrating. And then he goes on another build for another year. He fights Brock Lesnar. There's a couple of other things mixed in there. He's in War Games, and he eventually earns another shot at the title. He goes back. He fights Roman again at WrestleMania 40, and he wins the title. He finishes the story. Everything has a happy ending. Now, I know what you're saying. Chris, what the hell does this have to do with the Vikings? Let me explain. Because I was reading the Lions recap at The Athletic this morning, and they mentioned we're a special group. We're hardened. We've been slighted here and there and blah, blah, blah. I get that. Totally understand. They're 15-2 now. They deserve home field advantage, and they beat the Vikings' ass last night.
Mm-hmm.
I am not afraid to say that. But you could say the same thing about the Vikings being a special group, because there were points left on the field right and left last night. And again, we will get to that. And I think a lot of people believed the Vikings were going to win this game. They were going to get home field advantage, and they were going to play at US Bank Stadium with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. The disappointment is clear, and I totally get it. But I think there are several things being in their favor. You mentioned one of them is being on the road. US Bank Stadium is an excellent atmosphere. It's one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. Sometimes Minnesota fans can get a little quiet, though. We've seen it in other sports, the Twins, the Wild, the Timberwolves. Things get bad. Everybody goes, oh my God, it's happening again. Oh, the Minnesota sports, we never win anything. Oh. And I look at this team and I saw the defense do a lot of things good. They held the Lions 9 points through 3 quarters. Most of Gibbs's damage, I know he had a big game and 4 touchdowns, but it came in the fourth quarter. Jared Goff had a couple of blue screen of death moments, to quote Phil Mackey, and there was an intentional grounding that wasn't called in the end zone, which I think they said it was in the vicinity of 89, but Taylor Decker wears 69. So maybe his jersey got, oh, it's a tight end. Yeah, totally cool. No, it wasn't.
Well, for the Lions, it is.
Yes, exactly.
He's eligible.
They're all eligible, so Dan Campbell doesn't rip their head off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Every time Dan Skipper, oh, yay, Dan Skipper, hey. All right. And then there was that interception by Harrison Smith, which I don't know where the hell that was going. Andrew Van Ginkel had a potential pick 6 again, and he dropped that, which, again, you got to make the plays, and the Vikings didn't last night, so that's how it is. But I look at this team, and I look at the path they have to the Super Bowl now, and I don't fear it. I don't fear any. I don't fear any team. I don't fear any game. Does that mean they're going to win? Of course not. But I'm not sitting going into this game like, oh, we lost the Lions and now we're going to lose and now the season is over. And if we don't sign Sam Darnold, we're going to be awful like the old Lions or the Browns or whatever. You go to LA, you play Sean McVay, sweet little Puka Bear, 55 targets for Puka Bear, nobody else. Go beat them. Mm-hmm. Then you go to Detroit where you mentioned it. All the pressure is on the Lions if they see us again. Like, they are expected to be there, and they are expected to go to the Super Bowl. The Lions have beat the Vikings twice, and it's kind of like if they beat them a third time, hats off. Kind of like the way I'm looking at this game right now. But if they lose to the Vikings, I mean, there's nothing to lose for the Vikings. Right. And then what? You go to Philadelphia? Like, we've talked about it too. Like, that team's like a Bunsen and Beaker experiment ready to blow. Like, beep, 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 beep. Nick Sirianni running on the sideline. And oddly enough, Cody Rhodes finished the story in Philadelphia. Again, kind of a loose connection there, but I'm trying to tie everything together. I know last night was disappointing, and now it's all daunting. The Vikings have to win 3 road playoff games probably. But if you lose on Monday, it sucks. But there's a lot to build on here. I'm saying it from this standpoint. It's been almost 50 years since this team has gone to the Super Bowl, and the Lions basically delivered a Samoan spike to the throat last night. Mm-hmm. But I think this team has the mentality to push through this, and I think this team has the mentality to win 3 playoff games and get to the Super Bowl. Odds are it probably won't happen, but I'm not fearing this. And like I said, it's time for the Vikings to finish the story, get to the Super Bowl, have that coin flip for a championship, because I think this is a championship caliber team.
Yeah, and finishing their story might not even be this season. It might have to wait till next season when
Sure.
maybe they put JJ McCarthy in there. Ben Johnson leaves the Lions. Aaron Glenn leaves the Lions. They're left scrambling to figure out how to play at a similar level. So yeah, it might not even happen this year, but I think the Vikings are still on the right path to where they want to get eventually. I don't even think they were expecting them to be this good this year, but a lot of Vikings players have said how this season has been like the most fun they've ever had playing football. And on Sunday, it didn't seem like they were having a lot of fun. It felt like they were under the bright lights. They had a lot of pressure on them in front of the Lions crowd, especially Sam Darnold. Just seemed like he was jittery, nervous, whatever it was. And I'll say this guy too. That'll lead me to my next overreaction, which is T.J. Hawkinson is lying if he says he wasn't thinking about his knee injury against the Lions on Sunday. So heading into the game, Hawkinson said he wasn't going to be thinking about his torn ACL that he suffered last time he was on the field against the Lions. He said it's just football, guys. Guys get hurt. Sunday's game in Detroit is just another game, just football. However, he proceeded to then have his worst game of the season since returning to the field in Week 9. He was targeted 8 times, finished with just 2 catches for 9 yards. Sam Darnold had a 39.6 passer rating when targeting Hawkinson on Sunday. Now, some of the blame can definitely be placed on Darnold. He had an off night. It just wasn't good all around. But Hawkinson just seemed maybe a little more jittery out there than normal on Sunday. It seemed like he was bracing for a big hit sometimes instead of worrying about maybe just catching the football. Hopefully it's just a one-time thing. He was able to get it out of his system because if the Vikings are going to do anything in the playoffs, they need Hawkinson to play much better than he did on Sunday. So hopefully he's done. He got it over with. Now he can get over that hurdle and get onto the Rams. And maybe if he has to go back to Detroit, he'll be much better.
I think as Vikings fans, we're a little bit spoiled with like comebacks from knee injuries because of what Adrian Peterson did.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, it's the same way we kind of complain when we don't blow out a team by 20 points and like, that wasn't a good win. That, because we saw the 1998 team and like, that's what a dominant team looks like, right? Like, we look at Adrian Peterson, we go like ACLs are like oil changes. You should just be able to come back and, be the same player that you were. I don't think TJ Hawkinson has been that same player this year.
No.
And it might take him an off season to just take a deep breath and like, this is going to sound bad, but like kick your feet up, relax. There's no rehab. There's no anything. You can just focus on, okay, what went wrong last year? I do feel like he's playing a little timid right now. And I think the connection between him and Sam Darnold hasn't been as good as it was between him and Cousins, which is to be expected because Darnold's had a full training camp with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Jalen Naylor. He didn't have that full training camp with Hawkinson, and they kind of just dropped him into the lineup in the middle of the season. And then it's like, all right, here we go. We got to go here. So Hawkinson's kind of been finding his way. I'm very curious to see how he looks next year. I know there's a playoff race. I know there's a lot of things in front of them right now because Hawkinson still had some pretty good games this year. I mean, I don't think he's total trash. I don't think the contract was a bad idea. I think that knee is in the back of his mind right now. And maybe when you do get reps, and maybe it was just going back to the scene of the crime and like seeing Kirby Joseph out there and be like, oh, I didn't get hit. Like, okay. There
he had a quiet night.
It was very uncharacteristic of him. And, you got the Lions fans booing. They'll turn on anybody, man. Like I'm dead. Like Matthew Stafford, TJ Hawkinson. There's probably some of them who hate Calvin Johnson because he refuses to come back. Yeah. They were mad at Barry Sanders for a while. Now they love him again. I mean, fickle. That's the word I would use to describe Lions fans. Fickle. But, something's up with Hawkinson, I think. And I don't think it's I'm not going to sit here and be like, they need to trade him. Like,
well, I think you can look at Dalvin Cook and look at his first year
yeah,
back from his ACL. He wasn't the same, and then the following year he had like a career year. So,
and I think he came back like at the beginning of the year, but then he had a hamstring injury, and like it took him a full year to get going. So I don't know. It might be an
like you said,
excuse, but
not everyone's Adrian Peterson, and I think a lot of people are thankful for that actually.
yes, in some ways and others. All right, this is called an overreaction segment, and I know a couple weeks ago I said I didn't want to talk about the future of the Vikings quarterback position, but I'm going to now because it is an overreaction. This is why you don't give Sam Darnold a long-term contract, because like I said, a lot of Vikings fans out there are going like, what are you going to do if you don't sign Sam Darnold? Oh my God. Like what? There were a lot of reasons we could point to for this loss, and a lot of them were wearing purple last night. But Sam Darnold was number one far and away for me. 18 of 41 passing, 166 yards, no touchdowns. And you mentioned this stat to me, 3.3 yards per attempt last night. ESPN's Bill Barnwell noted that he missed 4 touchdown throws in succession last night. I watched a little bit of the highlights this morning. There are wide open guys downfield against Aaron. And again, Detroit did well defensively. They bent. They did not break at all. Amir Robinson played out of his goddamn mind. And that honestly deserves a tip of the cap. Like you did a good job. And it was kind of funny. I was watching the pregame Football Night in America, and Maria Taylor was talking to Justin Jefferson. And they're like, can anybody guard you? He's like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, we're screwed. He's gonna get shut down, man. And I mean, too, like, what the hell is Justin Jefferson supposed to say? Like, I don't know. This Robertson guy is pretty good. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna get shut down tonight.
It's pretty iffy. I saw Sam in warmups, and you know. Now if Kirk were here, but anyway, like I just see little things with Sam Darnold, and it's not just a one night occurrence. The play clock, I think. It got mentioned nonstop, so maybe I just noticing it more because Tirico and Collinsworth wouldn't stop talking about it. But I mean, it felt like a little wonky, like the Detroit, Detroit people were kind of like, yeah, mess with the play clock. Let's the whole field advantage. Let's go. But how many times did the Vikings run that thing down to 0? Mm-hmm. And Tirico and Collinsworth also mentioned that Kevin O'Connell is in Darnold's ear until the communication cuts off, which is funny because on the other sideline is Jared Goff, who got completely worked in a Super Bowl when Bill Belichick was like, all right, 15 seconds, we're just going to shuffle the deck of cards and try and confuse him. And that's a lot of what was happening. I think Ben Johnson still might be in Jared Goff's ear on a play-to-play basis in Detroit, but that's neither here nor there. Like, there's no guarantee that J.J. McCarthy wouldn't have done the same thing last night as a rookie quarterback. And I know a lot of people saw him on the sidelines like, he looks like he's 15. He looks like he should be at the state hockey tournament.
21?
He's 21. Yeah. So he looks like he should be at the state hockey tournament. And all the hockey, I should write a story on that right now. Like, he loves hockey just like everybody in Minnesota. And sometimes quarterbacks have bad games too. But I mean, you saw deficiencies with this roster that also need to be fixed. It would be nice to get someone that can get interior pressure on the offensive line. No disrespect to Harrison Phillips. Jalen Redmond's been a great story. You need to do something there. A cornerback under the age of 30 would also be nice. You're getting Mekhi Blackman back next year, but you also need one of those. I know Cam Akers had a big run last night, but having a decent backup to Aaron Jones would be a solid move because he can't seem to play a full game. And the interior of the offensive line, we'll get to that in just a second. But I hate having this conversation right now, but it is an overreaction segment, and I'm not giving him a contract. If you want a franchise tag, bring him back for a year, have him compete with McCarthy. I'm totally down with that. But I mean, the long-term quarterback discussion that people want to have and seemingly are hell-bent on having right now, I'm going to play that card. I'm going to say, you can't pay this man. You can't do it. Sorry.
Does your opinion change if they make it to the NFC Championship?
It depends on how Darnold looks. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if he's
Oh yeah,
doing the same thing where it's like, I mean, this isn't like a vacuum type situation. Like the play clock thing is a real deal. Like how
yeah, it's
many
been going
times does
on
that go
for all
down?
season. Yeah,
You
and
also
I don't know if that's
he
part of their
holds the
strategy.
ball
He
forever.
does. He
Like
does.
it's just like how many times I watch him go like, okay, throw the ball, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. Why do you still have the ball?
Yeah, I felt like it was a mixture of a lot of things last night. Darnold was off. The play calling was kind of weird too. Like they weren't doing anything to kind of combat the blitz that the Lions kept sending. It's like call a screen pass. You got Aaron Jones. He can do it. Even
He's not
Cam,
getting an IV in the locker room, but
even Cam Akers can call a tight end screen. You love to call those last year. And then like they're getting blitzed like every other down, and O'Connell's still calling like these long developing routes downfield where Darnold has to wait. It's just like no, just throw some quick passes, get Darnold on track or whatever, get him some confidence. And it was just like no, just hang back there. It was like it looked like a Norv Turner offense where you're just like okay,
it,
just wait for somebody to get open and then throw it.
and I should have mentioned this a little bit. Like Kevin O'Connell didn't have his best game yesterday.
No.
Like Sam Darnold was drowning, and Kevin O'Connell was just like, "All right, swim, buddy. Like you got this. Like we're gonna call another bang 9 route or whatever."
Have you ever
it's
seen
called.
those videos where they throw like babies or toddlers just like
Yeah,
straight in the water? They're
yeah.
like, all right, figure it out. That's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Just yeet them in the water and like,
Yeah.
all right, float to the surface. Scott Johnson's in the comments. He says Lions set the blueprint for Darnold, just blitz him. Darnold actually had the highest passer rating against the blitz coming into
Yeah.
the game. So like the Lions were just like, all right, dude, yeah, you're good against the blitz. We're just gonna test you.
Right.
Like, because we don't have any corners. Terry and Arnold got hurt pretty bad last night, too. So, like, they don't have anybody.
No.
Which again, if the Vikings do get another Detroit rematch, I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Maybe
because
like as soon as he went out, they should have attacked. They should have like gone against like attacked their corners, like just gone straight at him. And I don't know why they didn't do that or why KOC didn't adjust his play calling for that. But it just seemed like I don't know. KLC had a plan and he was just trying to stick to it and didn't really want to mess it up. Or maybe it was more Darnold's doing where he had his first reads and he just every time he saw him, he didn't think they were maybe open enough instead of just playing like he has been all season where he's just like, F it, I'll just chuck it in there. But last night it seemed like he was just trying to make the perfect pass, and that's not how he's played at this season at all. It's more just been like Addison's down there somewhere, Jefferson's down there somewhere, whatever.
and it's very, I would liken it to what happened during the Jacksonville game,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Darnold threw 3 interceptions in that game. The Vikings still wound up winning, but it was very similar where he looked tentative and tried to make the perfect throw, and the Jaguars made him pay for it several times.
And I know Addison and Hawkinson had a bunch of targets, but it still seemed like Darnold most of the time was just looking at Jefferson. Like he wasn't really looking for
Well,
anything.
if they were counting targets the way the refs were last night on that intentional grounding call,
Right.
maybe, some of those were like 5 yards away.
Yeah. So
off
I
the
mean,
back of the offensive lineman's head.
I think I saw Addison's dad had a comment on social media after the game that KOC said join his son doing push-ups after he had a bad game too. So
Just yeah.
But it was just a bad game, and that's going to happen. The Lions have had bad games this year as well. The Vikings also as well. 2 of them came against the Lions. I think you got to, in a way, kind of feel not good, but know that there's one team that you've lost to 2 teams this year. You lost to the Lions and the Rams, and you've got a chance now to beat the Rams next week. On when you lost the Rams before, it was like 3 days rest. Guys were banged up. Blake Cashman wasn't playing. It was a Thursday. Thursday games are weird. Now you get an extra day to prepare. It's on a Monday night in LA. There's probably gonna be a lot of Vikings fans in there because there's no Rams fans. So like they got a chance to redeem themselves against the Rams, and then if things work out in the divisional round or the NFC Championship, depending how things go, they could play the Lions again. And like you said, all the pressure's on the Lions to win. And I think the Lions At least looking at that first half, they probably got to know they got away with one on Sunday because of all the missed opportunities the Vikings had. Because typically it probably should have been 21-7 after like the first half with all the opportunities the Vikings had in the red zone, turnovers. It should have been a much bigger lead, but things happened the way they did, and whatever. It is what it is. You did two, right?
Yeah, that
So I
was
got one
my
more?
second one. Don't pay Sam Darnold. So
Okay, I'll do one more. This one is related to the Vikings, but it's not. Doesn't have to do with their current team. But what would an episode of this podcast be without talking about Kirk Cousins? So, my prediction is that Kirk Cousins will open the 2025 season as the Browns' starting quarterback. There's already been some speculation that Kirk Cousins might reunite with Kevin Stefanski and the Browns this offseason, but after some news earlier today revealed that Deshaun Watson has suffered a setback in his recovery from Achilles, a setback also known as somebody pushing him down the stairs, possibly. Cousins to the Browns now seems very likely. I'm going to guess that Atlanta's going to release him because he's not going to accept a trade anywhere. And then Cleveland will be able to sign him to a cheap deal because he'll still be getting paid by the Falcons. The Browns will draft a young quarterback to develop behind Cousins for the 2025 season. And if he signs with the Browns, it will take Cousins less than 24 hours to say that he wants to retire in Cleveland.
Deshaun Watson was probably like getting ready for a massage, and there's Kevin Stefanski with a lead pipe, just like, just like a very famous Raw moment with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon.
And I was thinking Triple H with the Shawn Michaels, the surveillance video or whatever.
Oh, the surveillance.
It was you.
You're damn right, it was me. Just on the Cleveland Browns.
Or was it Rikishi and The Rock?
Oh, I did it for The Rock. Yeah. I did it for the Browns. I did it for the people. I took out Deshaun Watson.
Stefanski's like, they fired their offensive coordinator. He's like, all right, enough of this. This is my team. It's my offense. We're not messing around anymore with this stupid quarterback and this stupid OC.
You know what? I mean, when you think about it, yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell got the best out of Kirk Cousins. The second best season he had in his career was under Stefanski in 2019. I know that was a very run-heavy offense, and that's what Stefanski still likes to do with, I think Cleveland takes a running back because Nick Chubb. I mean, that dude, I love Nick Chubb just because, the resilience he's shown in his career is pretty damn awesome. Man. Yes, big beefy man bumping meat for all these years. But with the running back class, they might take a running back. You might have Chubb in the fold. Just tell Kirk Cousins, hey, you got Jerry Jeudy here. You got they got him for a fraction of the price of Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I should talk about that today after the way Jefferson played last night, but that too, like Justin Jefferson was off. Like there were a couple of balls that hit him in the hands, and he just wasn't able to do it.
I think the Lions were really physical, and they kind of got into the Vikings' head a little bit, probably.
Correct.
Get him off the line. That's an old thing that, old Patriots teams used to do too. So see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just looking at the comments here. We have more. I'll get to them in just a minute. And yes, Scott Johnson does say safety was intentional grounding. We did mention that a little bit earlier, but thank you for commenting. We'll get to some of the others in just a moment here. Right after we talk about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all of your takes during the playoffs with over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won. Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all of your favorite athletes' performances. With their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money by just choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, such as yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. They've got all of your favorite teams, leagues, and stars to choose from, and Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts power to cash out in your hands. They also have rescues, which means that if a player gets hurt early in a game, you can get your money back and you receive a promo if your early injury causes you to lose. I've been using Underdog for a few years. Adam has played as well. I'm definitely going to get on the wild card action going down this weekend. I mean, Vikings aren't playing, so maybe you want to do higher on Lamar Jackson rushing yards, maybe higher on Patrick Mahomes touchdowns after the Chiefs kind of Oh yeah. They're not in the first round. Honestly, I am so locked in on the Vikings. Like I'm just kind of like whatever. Maybe you want to do. Maybe you think Sam Darnold's gonna have a big bounce back game on Monday night.
It's college football too.
Yeah, college football is still going down. We got the college football playoff. It's all there. You can win your money just like that. That's why Underdog is the best place to play. Pick them. You download the app. You sign up with the promo code The Age, which is all one word. Deposit now. You get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code The Age, all one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Now the fun part. You must be 18 years or older, 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 years or older in Colorado for some games, 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado for some games. If you are concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Okay.
You see the breaking news?
What's the breaking news?
Christian Watson tore his ACL.
Still has more upside than Justin. I mean, is that a
don't
low
kick
blow?
him while he's down.
Okay. I want to mention this one more time, just with the Darnold thing. Like everybody's like the Jordan Love plan. Look at the Packers and how good they are right now.
Darnold's not Aaron Rodgers.
Jordan Love's also not Aaron Rodgers. And look at the weapons. I mean, they have a really good running back. Josh Jacobs is pretty good, but every receiver either gets hurt or they can't catch. And in Christian Watson, his case, it's both. I don't know, man. I mean, I think you're all cowards. If you're Sam Darnold, you gotta pay him, or else you don't know about J.D. McCarthy. You don't know. He looks like he's 18. You don't know.
Be okay. It'll be all right.
I don't know if I'll be okay.
The Vikings will be okay.
I know the Vikings will be okay. I don't know about me, but I guess we'll save that for another day.
I can say the same too.
Wow, that was a squeaky voice. Here's my last overreaction. The Lions' investment into an offensive line made a major difference last night. Dan Campbell and Brand Holmes had their first draft in 2021. There were plenty of highly regarded quarterbacks on the board at the time, Justin Fields and Mac Jones, which I know how they turned out. But at the time, you wouldn't have blamed the Lions for taking one because they just traded for Jared Goff. Goff was coming off a disastrous end of his tenure with the Rams. You could talk yourself into it. Instead, they took Penei Sewell, which looked like a stock Dan Campbell pick, but you already had Taylor Decker, former first-round pick. You had Frank Ragnow, another first-round pick. And you had Glenn Glasgow, who he's okay, but he was a third-round pick in 2016. Then you go ahead and you had Kevin Zeitler for 1 year and $6 million this past offseason. The Lions offensive line now has 4 players with a PFF grade of 75 or better this season. And PFF also had them ranked as the 5th best offensive line coming into Sunday's game. When you compare that to what the Vikings had on Sunday, there's a big difference. I know they're missing Christian Darrisaw. Things are better if he's on the field. Maybe a few less false starts and holding penalties. No offense, Cam Robinson. Brian O'Neill is a former second-round pick. But then you have the interior of the offensive line where you have a center that you reached on between Jeffrey Simmons and Dexter Lawrence, a 6th-round tackle that you've converted to guard, and another free agent guard that none of the other 31 teams wanted for 2 years in a row now. So when you look at Sunday's performance, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Dalton Reisner's playing well, though. Actually, I don't want to.
He is. I wrote about it too, where
he was like 19th or something for heading in yesterday in PFF, like overall grade among guards, I think.
Yeah, he's been playing well.
Much better than Ed Ingram, but I mean that bar is lower clear too.
Yeah. Now I had that stat where here we go. Hang on.
Bless you.
Excuse me. I have it up right here. Passing pressure, snaps under pressure last night. Sam Darnold was 48.9% of his dropbacks were under pressure last night. So a lot of stuff happening for Sam. And again, Darnold's got to play better, and he's handled pressure pretty well this season. But allowing that high of a pressure, the only quarterback with more pressure that played a significant amount of snaps was Carson Wentz, and the Kansas City Chiefs were tanking, so Joe Burrow didn't get in the playoffs. Just like, hey, could you help us out? Nah. Go ahead, hit him. Hit. We don't like him. Go hit Carson Wentz.
They also wanted the Dolphins to lose, so Tyreek Hill would come back to the Chiefs.
Here's a prediction for you.
Oh boy.
I think Tyreek Hill is going to be a Green Bay Packer next year.
I don't know. Too cold. Well, I guess Kansas City's cold, but.
Miami might just go, bleep you. We're trading you there.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't need his approval for a trade.
No, it's weird. That's a weird situation.
And Tyreek Hill could also be like, I want a new contract wherever he could pull the Zadarius Smith card, which Lions fans love him right now. But I'm surprised, like his celebration, he didn't sack Sam Darnold and then run straight up to the front office like, I need more money now.
I don't understand. He keeps talking about like, oh, I can't wait to play my old teams, and it's like, no, nobody wanted to get rid of you. Like you were the one who always wanted to leave. Why is it?
Right?
Like, oh, they did me wrong. Like, no, you sent out a goodbye message the day after the season ended.
He's a walking country song, is what he did. They did me wrong. Him and Kirk Cousins should hang out more. But yeah, I mean, you saw it. Jared Goff had a clean pocket a lot of the time. He was still 9th in pressure dropbacks. He was at 37.1%, which is pretty good when you think about it. But Goff also handled the pressure a lot better because it probably took a little bit longer for the Vikings to get to him in most cases. So I don't know. This is what it looks like when you invest in an offensive line. And again, the running game too. You can look at that. Jahmyr Gibbs ran all over the place, especially in the fourth quarter, because that offensive line beat the Vikings up on the interior. So I don't know. It's the foundation of the team. Jim Harbaugh had a quote about offensive line. And I mean, we kind of look at Jim Harbaugh where we think he's insane, but he brings a good point. He's like, you don't care about the offensive line. He's like, all right, have fun having your quarterback get beat to shit. And oh, you're on defense. You don't care about the offensive. Well, offensive line gives you a pretty good breather when it's grinding out yards on the ground. So yeah. Detroit built theirs the right way, and the Vikings probably need to think about theirs.
I mean, it's been a problem for 15 years?
Decades.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for decades.
Since Steve Hutchinson left, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like in the late 90s, early 2000s, Vikings had a really good offensive line. I feel like that was one of their strengths was I think Paul Allen calls it the Minnesota Moving Company now, but they really kind of were back in the day. And just the last 15 years, it's just been
early 2000s offensive line. That was a unit, as the kids say.
Matt Burke, Brian McKinney.
Yeah. David Dixon.
Yep. Oh, he's a big dude.
He was a unit.
But like, yeah, it's just it's important, and I think a lot of the struggles too, at least yesterday, just has to do with play calling, has to do with Darnold on the ball. Like they talked about a lot, like Collinsworth did. Like Goff was throwing right at the blitz. Like he knew if a blitz was coming in one direction, that area is going to be opening, and he didn't take long to figure it out. He just said, "Whatever, just throw it. Someone's going to be there." And they threw to Jahmyr Gibbs a lot, swing passes or whatever. It just seems like the Vikings were just like, "Oh, they're blitzing. Well, we're just going to run our same offense that we planned to run anyways. So we're just not going to make any adjustments." And Darnold just take your 7-step drop, and hopefully you still have time to throw the ball, but you won't because the blitz will already be there. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But yeah, the interior offensive line has to be addressed in the offseason, which is part of the reason why you don't pay Sam Darnold. So you can go out and get someone, I think there's somebody on the Chiefs who's going to be a free agent in the offseason who's a right guard. I can't think of it right now off the top of my head. But he's going to probably be
Trey Smith.
Yeah, he's the top right guard probably on the market if he doesn't get franchised or whatever. So I think the Vikings, that's another reason to move on from Sam Darnold, so you can spend money on guys like that and actually, beef up your offensive line, which is something the Lions did, and it's working out for them. So, offensive line of the Vikings. Hey, guess what? We didn't talk about the kicker today, so that's good. Didn't talk about him yet.
It was in the back of my mind. I'm like, should we have talked about the kicker?
He's hurt, right? He's got to be hurt. I know.
But I mean,
Matt Daniels said, "Nah, he's fine. He kicked the ball out of bounds indoors."
Right, and then that second miss
That was bad. Yeah,
that was like Blair Walsh territory. Just shanking it all the way to the right. I don't know, man. I like Reichert overall. Like I said, I like his mental makeup.
I'd still rather have him than Greg Joseph for sure.
They need to look at Reichert right now and be like, if he's hurt and this is the reason all this is happening, you need to sit him down and be like, we still have confidence in you. This has nothing to do with that. Like, we just don't think you can perform right now with this injury. And like, if he's hurt, if he's fine, whatever. But I mean, there's a very convenient point to his struggles because beginning of the season, automatic, no problems at all. Gets hurt, we have this recent stretch. So they just need to have a really good hard look and be like, can we do this with you or can we not?
John Parker Roma is available now. Patriot season is done.
Now, did they cut? How does that work? Because he was on the practice squad.
They can sign him to a futures contract, I think, if they want, or they can just let him go.
Okay. So, and if they let him go at this point, the Vikings can scoop him up and put him on the playoff roster. So
I think he's available kind of technically now. They could have signed him off the practice squad anyways, but he's available now. And then if he wants to stay with the Patriots, he can sign a futures deal or whatever. But I think if he's smart, he'd probably sign a contract with at least some playoff team heading in the playoffs because everyone can always use a kicker. Yeah, that's fun. So exciting. Talk about kickers and offensive line and Kirk Cousins. We got the trifecta.
The trifecta. Today. We are back. I totally forgot about acknowledge him today. I didn't want to acknowledge anyone.
That's fine because I got two guys.
Do you have two?
Yeah.
Here's what I'll get. I'll do one off the cuff because I was going to acknowledge Meek Robertson. Yeah. PFF slept in this morning and didn't get their grades up until 10 o'clock. So I'm kind of behind the eight ball here. But Meek Robertson, excuse me, got kicked out to the outside. Allowed 4 catches on 8 snaps. Yeah, I don't know. When the refs let you grab and hold and everything else, you can do a pretty good job when coverage.
They let the Vikings do it too. So
yeah. Maybe we should acknowledge the officials.
Did you know that Robertson played in high school against Jefferson? Did you hear that mentioned at all?
That was mentioned a couple times.
Yeah.
It's a long game. Sometimes you gotta mention things a little bit.
Yeah. When you're not talking about the play clock every 2 seconds.
Yeah. All right, go for it.
I am acknowledging Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard. This isn't just for their game yesterday, but just like overall season, because we're at the end of the season now. Regular season's over. And Van Ginkel and Grenard have been 2 of the best free agent signings in Vikings history. And I don't think I'm like breaking any news or whatever with that statement, or it's outrageous. It's not a hot take. They've been really good. This season, they've combined for 129 pressures and 23 sacks. 2 guys. That's it. Van Ginkel has 1 year left on his contract after this season, but in my opinion, he's already earned enough to probably get an extension from the Vikings this offseason. I feel like he should probably get another 2 year at 2 years probably added onto the deal he has now, but that's depending on a lot of things, including quarterback. But both have just been fun to watch during the regular season. You like Grenard last night, the first half, he was just a monster, like defending the run, getting to the quarterback. He's got a spin move like reminiscent of, dare I say, Everson Griffin. So, they've been very good, and hopefully they can help the Vikings go and run to the playoffs. So Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard, I acknowledge.
I'm not going to acknowledge someone. I'm going to acknowledge a rumor.
Oh boy!
Because
oh boy!
I don't know if you saw this before the game, but Jake Glazer went
Oh,
on
Jesus
Fox.
Christ.
Went on Fox and was like, some teams are thinking about trading for Kevin O'Connell this year that need a head coach. And it's kind of like Captain Obvious moments, which I don't know. Fox's pregame show, you know how I feel about that. Terry, the whole segment is hilarious, not just because of the rumor, just because of the old farts that they have there. Like, it's literally 4 old guys just like standing there and nodding their heads. Like, Jake Glazer's like, yeah, and then, well, and I'm getting to that too, but like Jake Glazer's like, there's a special candidate that nobody has thought of before. And Terry Bradshaw goes, Bill Belichick, even though dude's got a job now, but whatever. I mean, it's, man, these people out there with the football, people say I got CTE with the brains. I think it means catfish, turnip greens, and eat touffe. I don't know. The last thing's French right there, but, Fox keeps paying me, Then Michael Strahan, too, is just sitting there, and he's just like, if I were Kevin O'Connell, I would feel slighted by this. Like, no, the dude's probably, like, getting ready for a playoff push, which, when
they were 7-10 last year. Like, we're not acting like they won 14 games last year. They were 7-10. So
I don't know, man. And then, later in the day, the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo, and Gronk is like making a very valid point. And we gotta go to commercial. We can't have this. Our old audience, they might have a heart attack with like
That's
he's like sitting there talking to Jimmy. He's like, remember when you went 3-13, Jimmy? Yeah. I remember. Where's the Werthers?
That was the Fox and Fox Sports making their presence felt.
Oh, geez. Yeah, sure. I'll acknowledge that. Vikings and Rams now. Now that we got all the bad stuff out of our brains. Vikings and Rams are going to play on Monday night, which is another jumping off point for me because, of course, the Vikings are going to have a short week to prepare.
Troy Aikman likes Sam Darnold, though.
What's that?
Troy Aikman likes Sam Darnold. So.
He does. Actually, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be on the call because it's an ESPN game, 7:00 next Monday night on ESPN. I know a lot of Vikings fans will roll their eyes at that, but they were the announcers in each of the last 2 playoff wins for the Vikings. They were also the announcers in other games for the Vikings, which shall not be named, where they lost, but I'm trying here. Opening lines see the Vikings favored by 1 to 2.5 points. Again, Scott Johnson's mentioning that in the comments. Line's already moving downward to 1.5 Vikings favored.
It's going to be like the Packers game, probably, where it just fluctuates throughout the whole week.
Exactly. And there is that. The Vikings, of course, lost to the Rams 30-20 earlier this year. What are you looking for as we sit 1 week away from the first playoff game?
I mean, Puka, and
Puka Bear.
Puka and Cooper are back, right? They're healthy. Yeah, but it hasn't seemed to make much of a difference the last few weeks. The Rams have averaged 15 points per game in their last 3 wins. Matthew Stafford's thrown for under 200 yards in 4 of his last 5 games. So, like, the defense has played well, which probably will be a factor on Monday. And I still think it'll be close. Sean McVay's a very good coach. Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback, regardless of how he's been performing as late. Kevin O'Connell knows this. But I think the Vikings having, that extra day of preparation, not having the short week like they did against the Rams earlier this year, having to travel, they'll be able to get everything in order, get everyone healthy. Blake Cashman didn't play in that game either against the Rams, so he'll be playing this time. I think it'll be close, but I think the Vikings win probably like 23-18.
Yeah, I'll have to dive into it a little bit before I make a prediction, but I think running the ball is going to be huge in this game. Aaron Jones only had 19 carries for 58 yards in the first meeting. The Vikings were able to move the ball through the air pretty good against the Rams defense, which has really turned it up a notch in the last month or so. So they are a defensive team. And I don't really know what's going on with their offense right now because they have a lot of weapons. Kyron Williams is a good back. Cooper Kupp, obviously a dangerous receiver, but it seems like all the targets are going to Puka Nacua, and it's either Puka or run up the middle. And the other thing is too, it's another one of those games where the Vikings were this close to making a play and they just didn't make it. Whether it's a sack by Harrison Phillips, whether it's
face mask,
whether it's but again, the Vikings put themselves in that position to get screwed over. So I also think having a full week will benefit the Vikings here because Sean McVay is one of the best short week coaches in NFL history in terms of battling against the spread and all that stuff. And again,
they also caught the Vikings off guard by being like, "Oh yeah, Puka Nakua's healthy."
It's Puka's music. Puka Bear is here.
We're opening his 21-day window. He's ready. Okay.
Just running out of the field.
It was a very Shanahan-esque injury related, thing where it's like, oh yeah, he's been injured the whole year. But he'll be ready.
Christian McCaffrey's fine.
Yeah.
Just
we'll see what happens.
He's got some Brazilian steroids, but other than that, and I mean Blake Cashman and TJ Hawkinson being in this game should help them.
Right.
Hawkinson, like I said, it was just a weird game for Hawkinson. I don't think anything is wrong long term. It was a tough night. It happens.
Yeah.
So
and I think Sam Darnold will want to. When they played Sam Darnold first half of the year, it felt like he was either still adjusting to the Vikings offense or still trying to get a feel for everything. And I feel like in the second half of the year, he just played so much better. And Ed Ingram also played in that first game too. And Dalton Reisner was not a starter as well. And I think after Darisaw was also hurt in that game. So after he went out, the whole left side kind of just disintegrated. Now they have Cam Robinson, who's not Darisaw, but he's better than, Quesenberry on the outside there. So there's a lot of things that are different from the last time the Vikings and Rams played, and I think it favors the Vikings heading into Monday night. I'm sick of these primetime games, by the way, but it's the playoff.
It's why I'm dragging ass right now, just kind of like, yeah. And I mean, it also doesn't help when you lose a primetime game. So it's kind of like, all right.
If you're good, this is what happens. You play primetime games.
Exactly. And then you wake up
or if you're the Jets,
being on 2 cups of coffee and debating having a third. What do you think of the rest of the playoff picture?
I don't think the Chiefs are making the Super Bowl. I think it'll be the Bills or the Ravens. I just don't. I know people are like, "Oh, you're down in the Chiefs or whatever." They're 15 are they 15-2 now? Yeah, because they lost on Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just something about them. But they'll probably make the Super Bowl anyways because that's just what they do. Their defense is very good, but offensively they just really haven't been able to do anything this year. And I think the Bills are much better on offense. Their defense is not that great this year, but and then the Ravens, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, you always have to worry about them. Although Zay Flowers just got hurt, right? I just saw he's just day to day though. But good thing they played him in that meaningless game.
The AFC North was on the line.
It was?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So if they won, they would have won the AFC North. And then, yeah.
And then in the NFC, I think the Commanders will beat the Bucs in the first round.
Yeah. And, I watched the Bucs as kind of like an intel game. Just like we could play them. And it was just, they didn't have any energy. Well, outside of force feeding targets to Mike Evans, they didn't care. And it's kind of like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was weird. That was like, remember, was it the sack record with Michael Strahan and Brett Favre, and he dove, and Mark Gastineau apparently was not happy about that.
And Mike Evans is a hell of a receiver. I'm not. I mean, you still got to be on the field to get 1,000 yards, and I mean, having the 17th game helped.
He's still very good, and that would still be a tough game because I think the Bucs defense is pretty good. With Todd Bowles. But and then the Packers and Eagles, I think that's kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I like the Packers defense, even without Jair Alexander. Christian Watson not being in there kind of maybe switches things up. But I think if they ride Josh Jacobs, they could do pretty well. And nobody feels good about the Eagles. They have a good record. They're 14-3, but no, like there's a reason why no one's like, oh, watch out for the Eagles. I don't think I hear that at all.
Yeah. I could see the Packers pulling off that upset.
Yeah.
Honestly, like there's enough there. And
They would play the
the
Lions.
Eagles could also kick the shit out of them too. Like either or. I mean, Philly's nice this time of year from my experience.
With the Packers, they would play the Lions if they beat the Eagles, right?
Correct.
Because they're the lowest seed.
Correct. And then the Vikings would play either the Commanders. I don't want to get into the whole, well, we want this to happen, so this will happen, whatever. Like, here's the other thing too. I didn't mention,
fuck it. Just play.
Just play the team in front of you.
Yeah.
1-0 every week, right? I know it's annoying, but I mean, I think about like the Timberwolves last year where they would get blown out by Phoenix in the last game of the regular season. It's like, oh my God, we got to play them in the first round. We're just going to get swept. We haven't beaten them all year. And then the Wolves swept them in the first round. They go to the second round. They beat the Nuggets. And then we're sitting there going like, well, Dallas upset OKC. Now, like we're definitely going to the finals. No, you're not. You've lost in 5 games. Like just take it 1 week at a time. Like that's the easiest way to do this. Like, the Packers win, they go to Detroit. Okay, like you might get to host the Commanders for a game in the divisional round, and that would be awesome, right?
Yeah. Well, and you think about some of the teams that have like gotten over the hump over the years in NFL history. It's been teams that have just gone on the road and had really nothing to lose. Think about like the Bucks and all those years where they struggled under Dungy and they go to Gruden and they go on the road, NFC Championship, beat the Eagles. Think about, the Patriots with Tom Brady at first. No one thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl, and they went on the road and beat, they beat the Steelers? Is that how they beat in the championship? I think so. Yeah. First one. They beat them on the road. There's a lot of teams that, have been counted out and gone on the road and won because the pressure's not on them. The pressure's on the home team to win and, give their fans something to, dream about. So like, I still feel like there's a ton of pressure on the Lions, and it's not going to be an easy road for them, especially because they just lost more players on defense last night.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to crap on the Lions.
Their offense is really good.
They are really Nobody's good. Missing on offense, and they're going to get David Montgomery back.
Jahmyr Gibbs is really good, but I think everyone can say who watched that game last night, for the first 3 quarters, the Vikings played really good defense against arguably the best offense in the NFL. Then the fourth quarter came, and Vikings defense just ran out of gas because their offense wasn't helping them out.
And if the Vikings offense took advantage of the opportunities they were given, that might be
it could have even been. They could have
the Lions. Yeah,
pinned back their ears, got more turnovers. Yeah, it could have been a totally different game. So I think if you're the Vikings coming out of yesterday's game, it sucks to lose. But you got to feel like if you play the Lions again, you got to feel like you can beat them still.
So it is a playoff week. That's exciting. We're not talking about coaching changes or looking at mock drafts yet. That's always a positive. But what do we got going on at the Viking age then?
Yes, we are. Not the Jets, who I think are interviewing 19 people for their head coaching job now. It's up to, but not Ben Johnson.
What's their Madden rating though?
Yeah, they're not interviewing Ben Johnson. I'm like, is it because like his name's Johnson or something, and they don't want someone else named Johnson in the building? Because that would be very Jetsian. But they are interviewing Matt Nagy. I did see from the Chiefs. So, and Arthur Smith. So great. Those seem like perfect Jets hires. But yeah, we'll be looking ahead to the playoffs. Maybe some early free agency stuff. The opponents for the Vikings next year have already been released, and they don't look too terrible. I think they're playing the AFC North next year and the NFC East. So we'll be looking at that and a bunch of other stuff leading up to Monday's game. It'll be another long wait, but hopefully it'll be worth it this time. But yeah, go check that out on thevikingage.com. Follow me, Adam Patrick NFL, on Threads and Blue Sky and Instagram.
It'll be a good week just to take a deep breath. Like, I think just after this week, just watch some football, watch some college football, watch some wild card
My
action.
kids
And
will
then
be
by
going
Monday
back to
night, we'll
school
be good.
tomorrow, not today, like I thought they were.
Yes, that's the reason we started at 11:15. Adam got his signals crossed and thought,
We got our kids all ready for school. Got them dressed and everything, getting breakfast. Went out the door. Okay, you're gonna be late. You're gonna be late, and they get there and no one's there because there's no school today. Good job by me and my wife.
but it's also January 6th. Like you would think,
Right. I don't know why they'd have an extra day.
Yeah, like why are we?
They just had 2 weeks off. Why do you need another day?
Take another day off. Whatever. I heard maybe there's a snowstorm in San Diego. I don't know.
Okay.
Teachers Gone Wild weekend. It's a retreat. Woo!
Tomorrow.
I know too much. Anyway, this is the Viking Age podcast. I am Chris Schad at the real Chris Schad. Adam, as he mentioned, he is Adam Patrick at Adam Patrick NFL. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day, but however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. For Adam Patrick, I am Chris Schad. This has been the Viking Age podcast.